Good evening, alumni and special guests. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I warmly welcome you to the 41st Annual General Meeting of the BCIT Alumni Association. This is our first online-only AGM, and while we wish we could gather in person with you all, we do hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. My name is Leslie Kershane. I am Executive Director of the BCIT Alumni Association and also the Director of Alumni Relations for BCIT. I will be your MC this evening. I am joining you today from the Burnaby campus, and we are thrilled that this online AGM enables you to join us from far and wide. Thank you so much for tuning in from across BC, Canada, and abroad. The AGM documents for your review are at bcit.ca/alumni/AGM. Scroll down to meeting materials. Anna on our team is now posting that link for you in the chat box. And yes, even though we are virtual, there are door prizes tonight for alumni. Please enter the draw using our free BCIT Alumni Perks app. Use the contest button in the app before the end of tonight's event. If you have not yet downloaded the app, please do so now. It's free from the App Store or Google Play. Just search BCIT Alumni Perks, and our team will quickly verify you as an alum and enable your account. Our draw prizes tonight are 5 $100 MasterCard gift cards donated by BMO, 2 $100 gift cards for Fresh Prep, no purchase necessary, and 1 $100 gift card for London Drugs donated by IA Financial. Thank you kindly to our door prize donors. And as you've seen, this webinar is being recorded, and we will post it online afterwards on our website. Now, this is where I was going to ask you to use hashtag BCIT Alumni if you are posting to social media. However, as you may have seen, today is Blackout Tuesday. As protests and unrest over the death of George Floyd continue around the United States and beyond, there is a movement on social media to make today, June 2nd, a day to pause all other conversations in business and take a stand against racism. So in respect of this, we are holding our social posts about our AGM event until tomorrow, and we invite you to do the same and use that hashtag tomorrow if you have things to share about tonight. Now, moving into our program for this evening, I would like to begin by acknowledging that BCIT's 5 campuses are located on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, which includes the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I would also like to acknowledge our special guests joining us this evening, including members of the BCIT Board of Governors, Distinguished Alumni Award recipients, BCIT leadership team members, BCIT Foundation, Alumni Association past presidents and board members, and of course, our esteemed speaker panelists tonight. Thank you. I sincerely thank our generous AGM sponsors, the Applied Science Technologists and Technicians of BC, a longtime partner of ours. Many of our alums are members of ASTTBC as well. And to the BCIT School of Business and Media, one of the largest of the 6 BCIT schools, thank you for your sponsorship. We also sincerely thank our valued affinity partners, BMO, IA Financial, Prospera, and TD Insurance. Thank you to all of our alumni who take part in these offers. If by doing so, you generate revenue for the Alumni Association in support of our programs and events, as well as our donations to BCIT and BCIT students. So, with that, I am now very pleased to introduce you to BCIT alumnus Doug Avenishin, Chair of the BCIT Board of Governors. Thank you for joining us tonight, Doug.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the BCIT Board of Governors, it is my honor and privilege to have this opportunity to speak with you at the BCIT Alumni Annual General Meeting. Thank you very much. Who knew 3 months ago that we'd be spending so much time on Zoom calls? I think we've all learned some new phrases and technologies since this pandemic has started. I'm excited to be here with you, our alumni today. Our relationships with our alumni are critically important, as you are the embodiment of the benefits of a BCIT education and credential. I'm very proud to say that out of my 5 family members, 4 of us are BCIT alum. And in fact, my wife and I met at BCIT 38 years ago. So the Institute has a very special place in our hearts. I still have friends and professional relationships that trace back to my time here as a student, and I still call on skills I attained and honed here. Thank you for remaining connected to BCIT, and thank you for your ongoing dedication and commitment to such a great institution. I'm looking forward to the program this evening and panel, and also to hearing from BCIT President Cathy Kinloch and others. I hope you enjoy the session, and I'm very pleased to introduce our BCIT President, Cathy Kinloch. Cathy?
Hi, everyone. I wish I could see all of you, but I know that you're out there beyond the corners of my screen. I really miss seeing everyone in 3D rather than the small faces and symmetrical squares, but it's important we all stay safe, healthy, and patient. Thank you for being here tonight. And thank you for being here for BCIT and for all you do for our students. You know, it's an unusually remarkable time, and this is a part of the program where you'd expect me to talk about what a remarkable year we've had at BCIT and the many outstanding achievements and accomplishments of our students, faculty, and staff. But we all know what happened back in March, which abruptly interrupted and transformed our lives and our world. So you may be surprised when I say to you here today that 2020 has, in fact, been a truly remarkable year for BCIT, and that for our students, faculty, and staff have achieved some remarkable accomplishments, not the least of which has been transitioning a significant portion of our programming and work online in just 3 to 4 days. I'm confident that everyone on this call has stretched and grown and surmounted some pretty big obstacles over the last few months in ways you never thought possible. And I suspect that, like our students, faculty, and staff, you too have embraced the challenges of the pandemic and are either working from home or transforming your businesses to adapt to this evolving new world. But you'll all be making a difference in your community. I know that for sure. These characteristics and skills, I find, are inevitably linked to the many benefits of BCIT applied education. You, our BCIT alumni, continue to be the leaders, the innovators, and the creators in this new paradigm of physical distancing and keeping each other safe. I'd also like to acknowledge you for your generosity in the form of a $1 million donation toward BCIT's Inspire campaign to help an alumni center at our Burnaby campus, and for your recent $10,000 gift to the COVID-19 Student Emergency Response Fund. This fund has been accessed already by many students in need. Thank you so much for your generosity. That will help our current students follow in your footsteps despite the significant financial and other challenges of the ongoing pandemic. So please keep doing what you're doing. We need your resiliency. We need your skills and determination during this unique time in our history. Please continue partnering with us. Help us tell our story and support our students. And please keep yourselves, your friends and family, and your community forever part of the BCIT family.
Thank you so much, Cathy and Doug, for joining us here tonight. We truly appreciate all you do for BCIT students and alumni. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Emil Bosniak, who has been president of the BCIT Alumni Association for the past 2 years. Emil.
Thank you, Leslie, and hello, everyone. Welcome to the 41st Annual General Meeting of the BCIT Alumni Association. To Cathy and Doug, thank you for joining us here tonight and for your kind words. Your leadership of BCIT, especially through these challenging times, is so appreciated. We are very grateful for the excellent long-standing partnership between BCIT and the Alumni Association. To everyone tuning in tonight, on behalf of my fellow board members, thank you for joining us. for our first ever online AGM. We certainly miss seeing you in person and hope you and your families are staying safe and healthy. Okay, we will now begin the business portion of the AGM. Please refer to the agenda PDF package at the link we provided you. Our team is posting that link into the chat window right now for your convenience. So, alumni and guests, I now call the BCIT Alumni Association Annual General Meeting to order. The alumni members present constitute a quorum, and the meeting is therefore duly constituted to conduct its business. It is 5:16 p.m. And now I ask Ali Siemens, Manager of the Alumni Relations, to join me for a few initial motions. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Emil.
Everyone, please refer to the agenda on page 1. I would like to move to that we adopt the 2020 AGM agenda as presented. Do I have a seconder? Please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window to second the motion.
It looks like I have Shabira who has seconded the motion.
Thank you, Shabira. And is there any discussion on the motion? If there is, please type any questions you have using the Q&A button, or if you prefer, use the raise hand button to speak and we will unmute your microphone.
I'm not seeing any questions or discussion from the members, Emil.
Okay, seeing no further questions, Ali, if I can ask you to launch the poll for the alumni present to vote on this motion.
All right, so everybody should see a motion in front of them pop up onto the screen. Motion to adopt the 2020 AGM. If you could please vote there, we will be closing the polls in just a few seconds. We see that 50% of the membership who are in attendance have voted. All right, thanks, folks. We'll be ending the polls, and I'm going to share these results up on the screen. Emil, your motion has passed.
Wow, okay, thank you. Motion carried. Next, please take a moment to review the minutes from the 2019 AGM on pages 2, 3, and 4. I now move that we adopt the 2019 AGM minutes as presented. Do I have a seconder? Please use the raise hand button or the bottom of your Zoom window or to second the motion.
All right, your seconder is Bob Ossel.
Thank you, Bob. And is there any discussion on the motion? Again, type your question using the Q&A or use the raise hand button to speak and we will unmute your microphone.
Looking over to the chat. All right, Emil, seeing no discussion.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, Ali, please launch the poll for alumni to vote on this motion.
You will see the poll in front of you now. So motion to adopt the 2019 AGM minutes as presented. 40% have voted. All right, I will end the polling now and share those results. Once I stop the share, do know you folks can X out of the results on your screen if you would like to. It won't interrupt anything in the meeting. Your motion has passed, Emil.
Thank you, Ali. Motion carried. And thanks, Ali, for all your help. Okay, time for the President's Report. Thank you, everyone. And now I'll give you a brief overview of this past year. Please refer to the 2019-2020 Annual Report link that we provided to you. Our team is posting that link into the chat window now for everyone's convenience. First, I'd like to acknowledge your hosts today, the Alumni Association Board of Directors. It's been an absolute pleasure working with this great team of volunteers over the past year. 2019 marked the BCIT Alumni Association's 40th anniversary. We now have more than 190,000 members across the globe, and that number grows by more than 5,000 new BCIT graduates every year. Everything we do is guided by our mission to foster alumni success, give back to our BCIT community, and to engage alumni for life. This year, we continue to achieve goals set out in our 3-year strategic plan. A key priority in this plan is alumni engagement. We have an expanded focus on our regional, national, and international alumni. Our alumni chapter in Hong Kong faced some unexpected challenges this past year due to the political unrest and then the pandemics. But we are very proud to appoint alumnus Brad Kirk as our new BCIT Hong Kong Alumni Ambassador to lead the chapter. And of course, you will hear from Brad a little bit later tonight as part of our speaker panel. We also want to sincerely thank our past Hong Kong ambassador, Darren Plested, for his excellent work there before he and his family moved back to Canada this past fall. Thank you, Darren. We also launched our new Fraser Valley Alumni chapter, headed up by none other than Jack Davidson, who is a past chair of the BCIT Board of Governors. Thank you, Jack. BCIT has thousands of alumni located in the Fraser Valley. So our chapters are in strategically important markets to enhance connections not only with our alumni, but also with BCIT, including industry services, applied research, student recruitment, internships, and more. We sponsored about 20 events this year, including BCIT's Exceptional Distinguished Awards Gala in October. The event celebrated BCIT's honorary doctorates, Distinguished Alumni Award recipients, as well as an outstanding student. And we did this among 800 of our friends and partners at the Vancouver Convention Center. Our congratulations to all of the 2019 recipients, including New York advertising executive Katie Klumper and global cybersecurity expert Derek Mankey. Thank you for your incredible working with us to showcase BCIT and the incredible caliber of our alumni talent. Next, as you heard Cathy mention, we were extremely proud to kick off 2020 with a $1 million pledge to BCIT's Inspire campaign. This is the Alumni Association's largest gift to BCIT in our history. And with it, we aim to create an alumni center in the heart of the Burnaby campus. So please stay tuned for a formal announcement and more information on how you can be involved this coming year. In March, the association also made a $10,000 gift, as Cathy mentioned, to BCIT's COVID-19 Student Emergency Response Fund. We applaud BCIT and the foundation for moving swiftly to help as many students as possible during these trying times. As the world changed rapidly toward the end of March, we reworked our plans for the coming year to offer alumni more ways to engage and volunteer online. Please stay up to date through our newsletters, social media channels, website, and of course, the awesome new Alumni Perks app, which is free, as we announce new opportunities and programs like our upcoming online book club. Finally, on behalf of the Alumni Board, I'd like to thank all alumni, including all of you here tonight, who are involved and passionate about BCIT. You attend our events, volunteer on advisory committees and boards. Many of you mentor students or volunteer as guest speakers or donate money or your time and take part in our affinity programs. You make a huge difference, and we are all extremely grateful. We are also sincerely thankful to the BCIT Board of Governors, the Institute, the Foundation, and the Alumni Relations team. It's been a pleasure working with you this year. If we were together in person, this is where we would all give you a big round of applause. Thank you for all that you do. And that concludes the President's Report for 2019-2020. So now I would like to welcome our Treasurer, Rajmina Lalani, to give her brief report on our financials.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Emil, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to, I think, the most important part of tonight's program, the Treasurer's Report. I know you've all been waiting for this moment, and so let's get started. Before we delve into the numbers, please make note that the Alumni Association's financial statements are unaudited. Per our bylaws, they are not required to be audited. Okay, let's begin now with the Statement of Financial Operations on page 25 of the annual report. So I'm delighted to report that our 2020 revenues grew by 19% this year to $194,346. Thank you to all our alumni who participated in our affinity programs, our BCIT BMO MasterCard, our insurance products with TD Insurance and IA Financial, our apprentice students program with Prospera, and of course, to all of you who downloaded the new BCIT Alumni Perks app. These programs offer great benefits to you, our alumni, and generate revenue for your alumni association, enabling us to offer programs and services and to donate back to BCIT and BCIT students. Thank you so much for your support. Speaking of donations, I think you'll see in the donations line here, in the expenses section, you'll see that the first pledge payment of $100,000 towards our $1 million gift to BCIT's Inspire campaign is represented there. Other significant variances over the previous year include an increase in a professional services fee for a governance audit consultant contract, as well as an increase in general and administrative expenses, which are reflecting some of the initial and ongoing expenses for our alumni chapters in Hong Kong and the Fraser Valley. The resulting year-end deficit is $36,461, as you can see there, which was planned for and expected and is covered by our savings. You may also notice we have very low administrative overhead as an organization. This is because BCIT generously donates in kind the services of our executive director, Leslie Crushane, who you've all seen talking before this, and support from the BCIT Alumni Relations team, as well as database and financial services for BCIT advancement. We greatly appreciate this very significant in-kind contribution to our operations and your ongoing commitment and partnership. Okay, now let's take a look at the statement of financial positions on page 24. This should appear side by side for you. So I'm pleased to report a continued strong financial position for the Alumni Association. Total assets increased by $38,074, giving us a balance of $368,150. This balance is sitting in our general bank account at year end. This is because we allowed our investment in a GIC to expire while we seek a better interest rate. That concludes the very exciting numbers portion of this evening. I want to take a moment to acknowledge my fellow Finance Committee members, past Treasurer Melissa Bullisberger, and members at large Tim Den Engelson, Jared Fedosoff, and Kevin Liu. Thank you for all the help through the year. So with that, I put forward the motion to approve the 2019-2020 financial statements as presented. Do I have a seconder? Please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window to second the motion, and Ali will help us through this again.
Great, Rashmina. So your seconder on the motion is Jennifer Pattison.
Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. And is there any discussion on the motion? Again, you can type your questions if you like, or raise your hand, and Ali will put you on the call.
All right, just watching the chat here, not seeing any questions about the financials just yet, Rashmina. Give it another second. I think you're in the clear.
Well, that's good. Either it's all perfect or no one was riveted as I expected. Okay, thank you, everyone. Seeing no further questions, Ali, if I can ask you to launch the poll for all the alumni present to vote on this motion.
Absolutely. So the poll should appear in front of everybody right now. Motion to approve the 2019-2020 financial statements. So we are going to stop polling, and I'm going to share the results here. There you are, Rashmina.
Thank you, everyone. Motion carried. I will now introduce my fellow board member, Board Director Alexandra Gunn, Chair of the Governance Committee, for the nominations report. Alexandra, over to you.
Thanks, Rashmina, and hi, everyone. It's been a pleasure serving as Chair of the Governance Committee this past year. And one of the highlights of my role is to talk to you at the AGM about the fantastic incoming and outgoing volunteers on our board. So I now refer you to the nomination report on pages 5 and 6 of the agenda PDF package, where you can follow along. We have 2 retiring members, Andrew and Stephen. Andrew Murray has served on the board since 2014 and stepped down at the end of 2019. I know I speak for all board members when I say it's been our distinct pleasure to serve on this board with Andrew. Thank you so much for your leadership and dedication over your 6 years with us. Stephen Palfrey has fulfilled his 1-year appointment with us as the BCIT Student Association President's Designate. Our bylaws reserve a seat on our board for a representative from the SAS board to ensure our 2 organizations have a strong connection. Stephen, thank you for joining us this past year. It's been fantastic having a student voice on our board. Before I move to the slate of board candidates for election and re-election, I want to take a moment to thank four very special volunteers. Our board is supported by additional alumni who serve on our committees as members at large. This year, we have 4 members stepping down from these roles, having served 3 or more consecutive years with us. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I extend our sincere appreciation to Artis Nelson and past President Jerry Townsend for serving on the Governance Committee, and to Bob Ossel and past President Anne-Marie Webb-Hughes for serving on the Alumni Engagement Committee. You've been truly wonderful to work with, and we are mailing each of you, as well as Andrew and Stephen, a memento of your time with us as our way of thanks. And I know if we were meeting in person right now, you'd all be hearing a big round of applause. So thank you to each of you. Okay, next, I'm pleased to present the slate of 5 candidates for re-election, 1 for election, and 1 by appointment to voting positions on our board. As per our bylaws, this will be done by acclamation. As detailed in the meeting package, the 5 nominees recommended for re-election are Melissa Bellisberger, Controller with Mr. Mike's Restaurants; Emil Bosniak, President of B Wireless Communications and Simplify Wireless; Avinash Kapil, Business Development Manager with Island Key Computer; Matthew Nuletti, Sales and Marketing Manager with Pelosis Learning Systems; and Arash Salamati, BC District Manager with Tangerine. The nominee recommended for election to his first term is Sean Poole, Director of Vessel Operations with C-SPAN. And last but not least, the director appointed to us by the Student Association is Claire McCallum, recently elected as Vice President External of the SA. Congratulations, Claire. And with that, the Governance Committee has presented the new appointed member and the slate of 6 nominees for 6 elected positions on the BCIT Alumni Association Board of Directors. These directors will join our continuing directors, Rashmina Lilani, Kyle Landrigan, Jennifer Patterson, and myself to perform the 2020-2021 board. As per our bylaws, I hereby declare the 6 members recommended by the Governance Committee elected by acclamation to the BCIT Alumni Association Board of Directors. Congratulations to our returning and new directors. That concludes the report from the Governance Committee. Thank you. And Emil, I turn things back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Alexandra, and also Rashmina for the Treasurer's Report, and congratulations to our newly elected and re-elected board members. My sincere thanks as well to Andrew, Stephen, Bob, Anne-Marie, Jerry, and Artis. It has been a pleasure serving with all of you. Please keep in touch. So this concludes the business part of our annual general meeting. So I move that we adjourn the 2020 annual general meeting of the BCIT Alumni Association. Do I have a seconder?
I'm looking over and it looks like Matt Chong is your seconder. Hi, Matt. We see you're joined us from Toronto.
Thank you, Matt. And is there any discussion on the motion? Any last questions about what you've heard so far tonight? Please use the Q&A button or use your raise hand button to speak, and we will unmute your mic.
Seeing none, Emil.
Okay, this is easier than I thought. Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, Ali, if I can ask you to launch the poll for the alumni, for all alumni here tonight to vote on the motion.
All right, everybody should see the final motion of the evening. Motion to adjourn the 2020 annual general meeting of the BCIT Alumni Association. Those votes are climbing rather quickly. Your motion is carried.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you. Motion carried. Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 5:38 p.m. Thank you, everyone. And I will now turn it back over to Leslie Cushane, Executive Director of the BCIT Alumni Association. Leslie?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emil. My sincere thanks as well to all of our volunteer board and committee members. It's an absolute pleasure working with you. Without your tireless efforts as volunteers, the association could not exist. So on behalf of all alumni, students, and BCIT, we thank you for that. Now it is, I'm very excited to move on to the speaker panel portion for tonight. I'm pleased to introduce Paul McCullough, the Vice President of Advancement at BCIT, who will lead this segment for us. Paul.
Thank you, Leslie. And first of all, a big thank you to Emil and the entire board of the Alumni Association for your tireless efforts this year, and to the commitment that you spend and the time you devote to this organization. It's extremely important to BCIT, and it's important that we continue to see continued growth in this area, and I thank you for what you do. So, with that, I have the privilege of moderating this speaker series today, and I'm pleased to say we've got three very exciting panelists, all BCIT alumni representing different businesses, and we thought we'd focus on the impact of this period of time with the pandemic and this COVID-19 situation. So why don't we just start with a quick introduction of our three key panelists tonight, starting first of all with Reza Bafende. Reza is the VP of Supply Chain for FoodX Technologies and Spud.ca. He's a graduate of the Operations Management program in 2010 and the Business Admin program in 2011. He's worked alongside many people in the technology area and spent a lot of time with Amazon. And the applied knowledge that he developed, he's moved to the e-grocery delivery business, and today is working with the world-class massive facility in South Burnaby, distributing groceries as Spud.ca as well as for Walmart. It's a tremendous organization and a tremendous facility, and the time that Reza has spent building that is really quite extraordinary. And a great welcome to you tonight, Reza. Thank you for joining us. Secondly, joining us tonight, all the way from Hong Kong, where I believe it is, just looking at the clock here, it's 8:40 in the morning on Wednesday morning. Brad, thank you for getting up early to join us today. Brad Kirk is Chief Operating Officer of Harry Layla Hotels. He's the 2017 Distinguished Alumni Award recipient, and is recently appointed, as you heard just a little while ago, as the BCIT Hong Kong Alumni Ambassador. And it's tremendous to have Brad in that role, and we really do appreciate it. Brad earned a BCIT Diploma in Hospitality in the class of 78 at BCIT. He worked in Vancouver for a number of years in the hotel industry before relocating to Hong Kong in 1988, where he spent the bulk of his career in Southeast Asia. He heads up today a global chain as Chief Operating Officer of the Harry Layla Hotels Group, and they have 17 hotels in 8 countries. London, a fantastic facility in Knightsbridge, which I've actually had the privilege of staying in before it was part of your group. Bangkok, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and a recently built and opened hotel in New York. Brad tells me he's spent 126,750 hours mentoring, coaching, and leading teams of individuals to help them realize their aspirations and dreams in his time as he's worked in 16 countries around the world. I'm astounded, Brad, that people actually track those kinds of stats. But congratulations, that's a lot of time. I was just trying to figure out what the hourly rate is on that, and it's pretty impressive. Our final participant for the panel is Anne McMullen, who's President and CEO of the Urban Development Institute here in Vancouver. She's a graduate of BCIT's journalism program in 1991. In 2017, Anne also received a BCIT Distinguished Alumni Award. She's an accomplished journalist, and before moving to the corporate communications world, where she worked with Forest Alliance of BC Salmon Farmers Association, Port Metro, Vancouver. She was also president of the North Vancouver Chamber of Commerce, and today leads the Urban Development Institute, one of the most influential business associations in the Lower Mainland, with 850 corporate members. UDI Pacific represents thousands of individuals involved in all facets of land development and planning, including developers, property managers, financial leaders, lawyers, engineers, planners, as well as architects, appraisers, and government. So with that little group, thank you very, very much for joining us. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion as we move towards a discussion around what the whole situation has looked like since this period of the COVID-19 pandemic. So maybe to get things started off, I'll start with you, Anne, and ask, just give us a sort of sense of your business, pre-pandemic, what you did, the size of your organization, the kinds of things that you were doing day to day before the pandemic started.
Yeah, so the UDI is a provincial organization that represents the residential, industrial, and commercial builders in the province. We advocate on behalf of the industry. We work to educate our own members and also communicate out to the public. So very much an industry association, a lot of challenge that we have had over the last couple of years. But our industry was just starting to rebound in January, February. We were looking at increasing in prices, increasing in sales. And then, as we all know, the pandemic hit. And then transitioning through that time over the last 3 months. So it was, our industry had slowed down and we were looking to rebound. And I still do think there is an opportunity to rebound over the next 6 to 12 months.
So how many people have you got operating in your office here in Vancouver?
We have 12 here in Vancouver. We have 2 in the Okanagan and 2 in Victoria. And we have a board of about 30 people. And we also say we manage about 250 volunteers within our organization that sit on liaison committees with municipalities, with the provincial government, with the federal government, on issues committees. So it's a very, very active organization representing about 250,000 employees around the province. And our industry represents about 20% of the GDP. So we've obviously a very active organization, a very active industry. And even though there's a relatively small number of people in the organization, everybody gets very involved.
So a big active office locally, and one that's certainly very, very busy and very important in this economy. So moving on then, let's talk to you, Brad. You're running a hotel group, you're sitting in Hong Kong, and tell us a little bit about, the size of the organization, what you do, and your world as it was in those days before the pandemic.
Well, good afternoon, Paul. Good afternoon, Canada. Greetings from Hong Kong. Well, pre-COVID seems like a long, long time ago. As you're all painfully aware, Hong Kong went through 7 months of pretty serious protests, which had pretty much decimated our Hong Kong business down to about 45% occupancy throughout those 7 months time period. We were still quite excited though, because we're in the process of building another hotel in Hong Kong under the Harry brand, which is our own brand that we just launched in Hong Kong a couple of years ago. In other jurisdictions where we have hotels like Singapore, Bangkok, Pattaya, New York, and London, we're probably experiencing the best business we'd had in the last 10 years. So all in all, 2020 was shaping up to be a great year for our Haralila hotels. We're also looking at finding new locations for hotels in Singapore, in Seoul, in Tokyo, and in Taipei. So we were really excited, with the exception of Hong Kong. Unfortunately, that did change, which we'll talk about later.
So moving along to Reza, your business, I had the privilege of visiting that. This was a business that was just starting and had moved to a new location. And so in those days earlier in the years, just tell us a little bit, give us a sense of what your business was like at that time in those early parts of this year.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me. So for those that don't know, Spud, we're considered the largest pure play online grocer in Western Canada. Been in business since 1997 as an online e-commerce world, specializing in the e-grocery world. And e-grocery is obviously on the cusp of growth, even prior to COVID, the COVID scenario. It's a very intimate purchase. It's not like your regular ambient produce shopping from Amazon or from Walmart. You're dealing with fresh products. So as people are transitioning to becoming a little bit more comfortable with purchasing something that they're willing to feed to their family, something that has such a high degree of product integrity when it comes to compliance, cold chain, and all the nuances that come with online grocery, we were seeing a fair bit of growth, a lot of transition. The overall demographic groups are starting to switch to become more comfortable with e-grocery. And then in March, obviously the entire retail sector flipped on its head. It was chaotic, and it's we really worked as a team to try to solve it, but we'll get into those details a little bit longer.
So thank you, everybody. That sort of kind of gives a sense of this world. We saw it back in January, February of this year. But let's just fast forward a little bit, maybe moving over to you, Brad. March 13th, 2020, and the whole world changes. I look at this and I look at a situation where you've got hotels in different jurisdictions around the world. The world got completely disrupted. Cathay Pacific was flying 45 flights a week to London and several to North America. And within a couple of weeks, they're down to 4 flights a week. Their business is down 94%. And the impact on a business that is global with different multi-jurisdictional locations, and a world that's changing in London, in New York, in Hong Kong. So what did you do on that day of March 14th when you walked into the office and suddenly said, I now need to move to a new world? So, Brad.
Well, to be honest, our world changed quite a bit earlier. March 14th was maybe when the rest of the world, I could say, really was slapped in the face with this crisis. But at the end of January, we were already seeing our business decimated as China was closing down, as China was trying to protect themselves from it. And obviously Hong Kong then started to take steps. Our business went down to 2% occupancy as of January 29th for the next few months. Our China hotels, the government closed those down instantly and made sure that everybody was safe. And that turned out to be a very good move by the government and by our hotels there. Kept all of our employees safe, which was critical. We had actually been already in early February speaking to all of our hotels in our other geographic locations and telling them that this crisis was coming their way. But a little bit similar to political leaders in the Western world, a little bit slow to react, unfortunately. Thought it was going to be contained in China, thought it was going to be an Asian problem. But the world is so connected these days that unfortunately we were proven to be correct, and we had to then close 3 other hotels in the region, including London and New York, including Singapore, and it really just changed everything for us at that time. It was extremely difficult for the teams because many teams were on unpaid leave, but at the same time, we're probably having to work twice as hard as before to deal with this once-in-a-lifetime crisis.
So, Brad, I mean, you were not unfamiliar to these kinds of situations. I think at Hyatt Hotels at the time, during the overthrow of the Indonesian leader, President Suharto. You were there for the Bali bombings. And of course, you saw you arrived in Hong Kong to be faced with SARS and so on. So, I mean, this whole notion of crisis is not unfamiliar to you. One of the things I've often thought, though, is you're in a business which is very much about people. How do you actually sort of kind of relate to the people and the people who are loyal employees and protecting and looking after them?
Well, it's probably one of the biggest challenges as leaders in the business, because when these type of crises happen, you can mitigate the expenses on a short-term basis, but you eventually have to make some pretty hard decisions.
You referenced Bali. After the Bali bomb, our business went down to 0%. Owner came up to me, said he wanted to close the hotel permanently because he thought we weren't going to come out of this. Bali was going to be destroyed for a long time. We were able to talk him into maybe looking at an early retirement program for employees instead, where 150 employees sacrificed themselves for the betterment of the company and saved the jobs of 450 other employees. And that hotel continued to operate another 15 years. So I think that is the most gut-wrenching part of managing during crisis is what has to happen with your people.
So maybe switching over to Reza, you were in a very different world of the situation. You had a business that was already established. You had a series of clients. You were servicing people who needed delivery of food. And suddenly, March 13th comes along and the demands go exponential. How do you handle that? You've got a facility that's working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have a whole bunch of safety issues that you have to deal with. You're in the food distribution business. And at the same time, you're at a time when, as I understand it, your business grows with a 16x growth in a matter of weeks. What does that look like? How did you actually handle that?
Well, I mean, it really was a team initiative, and what we really did as an organization, we decided to take a step back and understand where all the variables are coming from. What are all the nuances that were outside of our control, and what's within the control of the organization? And there were factors, everything from a massive requirement for additional recruitment. So we started connecting with all the hospitality industry within Vancouver to see, can we partner with them as their temporary closing to be able to utilize their labor force? Connecting even with the touring companies to see if they can utilize their vehicles. We had a lot of companies that, offer touring guides, touring buses, ripping out their seats to be able to become delivery vehicles. That was one instance of the scenario. So one was from the people perspective. And then also from a people perspective was the changes as you're dealing with food and you're dealing with product, what immediate changes you need to make today, but what changes you need to be thinking about a month or 2 months from now, the drastic measures that you need to be. I mean, I think I even told you once on a call, we have currently stocked up on full hazmat suits just in case it needed to go down that route, that we needed to body up everyone and everybody needs to be covered head to toe. That was the extreme measures that we were planning for in terms of anticipating the changes that would be either dictated by the provincial or the federal government or the CDC. And then what other measures that you need to put in place. And then on top of that, not only did we have this 20x growth on our website, from an infrastructure standpoint, what load does it take on the system? What load does it take on the infrastructure? There's a planning perspective. You're dealing with, food-based products. So the sense of nervousness in terms of the replenishment is so much more agile than your regular stocked item. You're not buying for 2 months of supply. You're buying for a couple of days of supply. So all of a sudden you have this massive influx in demand, but also a massive influx of disruption from the vendors that are supplying these products. And then you have the labor component and the technology component, and also from an asset utilization, vehicles, all the requirements that are needed. So we have to take a step back to be like, okay, so what are all these variables that are really posing themselves to the business? And what do we need to remove? If we know that supply of certain products are going to be an issue, just strip those products out, and why offer them and fill them half the time? Just take them out of the assortment, make sure that you can focus on what you can guarantee to the customer. Because at the time, it's kind of calmed down a little bit right now, and we see this new normal approaching. But at the time, people wanted somewhere that they can ensure that, if they don't feel safe, they want to stay home, and, that people with immune deficiencies, how do we make sure that we can serve them with the products that we're carrying? So we actually within, I could say it was flashing by so fast. Within a period of 72 hours, a couple of days, we had to completely shift gears in terms of direction, the methodology, what we needed to do to make sure that we're serving the customers in the way that the business is intended to do.
It's a tremendous achievement, and I know you mentioned that you had challenges even finding boxes in order to do the distribution. And I think you actually told me that you also had a bed in your office so that you could actually be there 24 hours.
Yeah, Absolutely. I mean, during the time, it was, it was, we kind of, as an organization, we rallied around, that fact that the community really needs us. I went to a store a few times myself, and it was chaotic. And, I could only imagine if my parents wanted to go to the grocery store, but if they wanted to shop with Spud, and, how do we service that? And at the same time, you had the growth factor and the same level of disruptions from, all retailers, including Walmart, which we deal with. So
great achievements. And I know that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, in one of his daily national televised updates, cited FoodX's innovation to ensure seniors and frontline workers know that others continue to receive groceries. And I thank you for the time that you put into ensuring that they could meet their obligations. So moving along to Anne. And you were in a different situation. You had a relatively small office and presumably had to pivot very quickly. How did you handle that? How are you working today? How are you working with your staff, and how's it going? And how did all that map out for you?
Yeah, and while, like you said, we have a relatively small staff, we work with hundreds of people within our organization. So it was actually on the Thursday, I guess it was the 12th, that we had an executive committee meeting, and Velda said, "Look, we're going to have to change course. We're going to have to cancel events." Everybody, the next day, we started working from home. It was actually on the 13th. All of our development companies, anybody who was working in the office was working from home. And over that weekend was probably one of the tensest weekends that we had, because we wanted people to be at work on Monday at our construction sites. These were construction sites, they're building homes that people had already purchased. Billions of dollars at stake as well. And how do we ensure that we keep those construction sites open, or also to keep the economy going? There were many calls throughout those 48 hours with government for every hour, every minute. What can we do to ensure that we can keep at least part of the economy going, that keep some parts of the economy going when people are employed, but do it safely? Obviously, that was the most important thing, is to do it safely. And that led to, keeping those job sites open on the Monday, and then over the next days and a couple of weeks is working with the provincial health officers team to come up with protocols so that our sites could stay open and they were done safely. And then having the construction industry included as an essential service. And that was incredibly, like I said, important for our economy, for the jobs, and to do it safely. And we're very proud to say that we did not have one single community outbreak on a job site. So that was, and people were nervous in the very beginning. I mean, construction workers were nervous, families were nervous, the general public was nervous. They were taking pictures of job sites and sending them in. But what we committed to as an industry was to go above and beyond what the provincial health officer said. And I really believe that we have been a model for other industries. The Restaurant Association, retailers have been coming to me, to all of us, well, what did you do? How did you handle it? And how did you do it so quickly? And I think, like I said, when there's a crisis, you go to work and you get it done. And like I said, most importantly, what we're proud of is that they've all been done safely. And in the very beginning, the productivity was down by about 30%, just because everything was so new. But within a few weeks, we were right back up to 95% capacity on the job sites. And as you see, the work is going on. Somebody said, I saw something on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and they said, go outside. You've been locked in your homes for a couple of months. Go and look outside and see how much has actually changed and how many buildings have gone up. And so that was a huge part of those first early days. And a lot of things have happened since, but that was the biggest one.
That's wonderful. And I admire the leadership that you provided to the industry. And I think it's wonderful to see that, we did make that pivot. So what we've got here is we've got three organizations, very different, and all having to react in slightly different ways. And it's really, as you sort of look at how you went through the disruption, and then sort of as we continue to discover the recovery stage, and it's sort of that initial piece of how do you get past Tuesday, and then very quickly into now we've got to start functioning again. So let's just sharpen this up a bit and move on, and now look at it in the context of, so where do we go from here? So maybe starting with you, Resi, you've got an interesting business, and I dare say that of that exponential growth that you've got, there's going to be tons of people who didn't use your services in the past and will look at them in the future. What happens next? We're now going past COVID, and it's late into 2020, early 2021. what's your business going to look like? What are you going to do? How is it going to change? What are the expectations?
Yeah, sure. So again, there's two different businesses, right? We have Spud that is basically a customer of FoodX, and as a company, we kind of manage all of them from a leadership level. But Spud, obviously, we're working to be able to see what we can do for the customers in the areas that we offer them. Not only trying to recalibrate our assortment to where it was or even better, but also expanding the areas and the days that we're offering. Actually, effective last week, Spud was always targeted in terms of where it delivers and how it delivers. But right now we're 7 days a week in majority of the Lower Mainland, 5 days a week with a fair bit of capacity as well. So we've recalibrated the business and just working to be able to serve the community as needed. As we know that, there's a lot of articles from McKinsey, Deloitte. They're saying that the transition, it kind of pushed this whole COVID thing, pushed the e-grocery world about 6 to 10 years ahead of schedule. And we are seeing that transition. So we're working to be able to not only consistently innovate, but also, make sure that we provide that same level of experience that you would as a consumer going into a store, that trust that you have of being able to pick your own product. How do we make sure we build that into the infrastructure from an execution standpoint, that trust is immediately gained after the first transaction? Second part of the business is FoodX. Which is a platform that we started working on in 2017 because we realized that what we do is we've been winning the online the best e-grocer in Western Canada for 5 consecutive years. So how do we take all this knowledge base and really codify it to be able to offer other retailers around the world the ability to immediately have a turnkey solution to be able to go online? And as of right now, the FoodX platform we're working with a lot of international, national, regional players within around the world, actually, showcasing our solution and showing them what we can do for them. Because for a company that's in the multi-billion-dollar, revenue stream, being able to switch or pivot or change their ERP infrastructure to be able to accommodate a new division that they don't have experience with could be potentially very riskful, and how do you deal with that, those nuances? So that's kind of the arena that we're working for. Our vision has always been, if we improve the sustainability factor in BC by 2%, it's great, but it's not going to have much of an impact. But if we change the behavior of someone like Walmart by 0.5%, that's a global impact.
So there we go. So, sorry, Reza, just to go back to that for a second, just to give everybody who doesn't know the business, just very quickly give me in 10 seconds. Order of magnitude, how many SKUs have you got? How many, what's the volume of business that you're turning out that would give somebody some sense of how big this is?
Sure. We between partners that we service for Spud and Walmart in our facility, we have about 32,000 unique SKUs, all different shelf life, all different products, different attributes, and on a daily basis, we are shipping anywhere from 70 to 120,000 unique items.
That's incredible. That's really quite something. So maybe just moving over, Brad. I mean, let's maybe shift to you. So you've got a hotel business now that has had to pivot, and you've changed. Are you just going to go back to where you were before? Or is the hotel business going to look different? You've got different locations with different situations in each of them. Very quickly, what does that picture look like for you?
Well, for us, there's no opportunity to go back in the foreseeable future. You have people who are afraid to travel, whether by car or by plane. You have employees who are afraid to come to work. We had an opportunity to actually sell our entire hotel for 2 months to the New York government, and our employees, our union employees, refused for us to take the business because they were just afraid to come into the workplace. No matter we put in 50 new hygiene policies and procedures and all the testing in the world to try to protect them, they just didn't feel comfortable, or their families just didn't feel comfortable that they come back to work. So we're going to have to take an awful lot of our guidance from our customers and from our employees. And that's going to change in every place where we have a hotel, because different people or different areas are responding differently. In Hong Kong, we have our restaurants open again. We have 75% of our restaurant seats are full. And people aren't afraid to take off their mask at lunch or at dinner. Whereas in New York, the government mandates we keep our hotel closed until at least July. Probably the same thing now in New York. So for us, the new normal is that it's going to be abnormal to try to run a hospitality business under these circumstances. It's just going to be something where we're going to have to be much more nimble in listening to our customers and listening to our employees and seeing what resonates with them, seeing where their comfort level is, and then take action accordingly. It's the new normal after the restructuring, after all of this post-COVID is still a great unknown, I'd have to say.
So Anne, with you, and you look at the industry and so on, what are some of the big changes that you're going to see? The impact of design of restaurants, the impact of design of condos. How's all that going to change?
Well, there's a number of things that are going to change. First of all, sales are starting to rebound. People, both realtors and sales centers and buyers, are getting a bit more used to buying this way. As we've seen some opening up, people allowed to go into sales centers one by one or into condos to buy. So we certainly in the month of April, and the sales were rock bottom, but we're starting to see a real pickup in May and even into June. So the demand is there. Prices have not come off. What the second change is the concern that we have about the amount of homes that will be built over the next couple of years. Usually every year, our industry, we say releases or launches about 20,000 pre-sales, 20,000 new homes into the pre-sale market. Those are in the multifamily. To date, at June, we've only released 2,200. And so that's the concern that we've still got that demand. We see that immigration will probably get back up to normal levels within 12 to 18 months from now. And so we are going to see, again, a real crunch on the amount of homes that are available, and yet that demand is still there. So we're going to see, we're expecting an increase in price. So the third change is what do the new homes look like? And that's one we don't know. There's so many variables. Are people going to demand sort of more office space, bigger units, more outdoor space that is attached to their home? What does public realm look like? What does the amenity space look like in a building? Right now, all those amenity spaces in buildings are largely closed, whether it's a communal rooftop garden or a gym or things like that. So that is all going to change. And those are all issues that we're going to have to deal with at the municipal level, because a lot of those are issues that the municipality has bylaws. And then as an organization, we do about 90 events per year. And it's very important for our industry to come together to network. We have events with up to 1,000 people. And so, that is going to change how we do business with each other. And so at the outset, you described what UDI is. It's the developers, but it's also all those other organizations, companies, law firms, engineering firms. And so that's that opportunity to mix and to do business. So what does that look like? We don't know. I don't think we can do this all through Zoom going forward. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Anne. And I appreciate the commentary. And I think, as we sort of get close to wrap up, I want to give a chance to maybe take any questions if there are any. But, what I think has really come out of this is that there's this notion of how you react, how you get through this initial phase, and really about the positive elements of looking to the future. And I think, we've touched on some things. Are we going to require office spaces in houses? Does Razor require houses that have drop spots so that you can leave things safely outside a building without them being on the front of the porch that get taken? Brad, I'm sure you're going to have to finish up building hotels that have got spaces that are more designed for people to do remote access and communications, and no doubt restaurants that are going to have to be designed differently. So before we just quickly go into the last page of the Q&A, I'd like to just do a very quick rapid fire with each of you. If you were to give me 2 or 3 of your key top sort of takeaways from what's happened over the last month, what would that look like? Maybe we'll start with you, Reza. What do you think?
I have one key takeaway that it really resonated with me. It's actually a quote from Charles Darwin that I still say. It's not survival of the fittest, survival of the most adaptable. The environment is changing every day, every second, especially in the online world. One thing I tell my team, I tell my team all the time is there's a saying that don't reinvent the wheel, but if the terrain is changing, the wheel needs to be reinvented.
So Brad, for you, what would be the big things that you would take away from the last couple of months?
Well, I think I go back to my youth and I think about Santa Claus. I think about his naughty and nice list. And I think about consciously or subconsciously, everybody prepares their own naughty and nice list in a crisis. And they're going to look to businesses and see, were those businesses generous during this time? Were those businesses open and honest? Were those businesses truthful so that people didn't have to hear things through the grapevine? Because people the stakeholders need to hear it directly from the leaders of a business. And if you did all the right things, you're going to be rewarded just like that good boy and girl under the tree at Christmas time. You're going to be on the Santa Claus's nice list, and probably your business is going to be strong going forward. If you were a bit greedy, if you were a bit unhelpful or deceitful or inflexible in the way you ran your business during this crisis, people are going to remember. You will be on their naughty list, and you'll probably get that lump of coal in your stocking on Christmas morning, and your business is not going to survive. And we need all the support we can get from our stakeholders in a crisis like this for our business. And hopefully we did the right things. Hopefully we're on the nice list. We'll find out. Paralila Hotels will find out in the next year or two. So.
I would share your sentiment there, Brad. I think we hope we all come out of this as a kinder, nicer society. So, Anne, I'll give you the last word on this little piece.
Yeah, well, I'm going to quote Dr. Bonnie Henry that she said each day, and it does really resonate with me, to be kind, be calm, and to be safe. And we in the British Columbia have really come together to get through this, and very successfully. And we need to come together more than ever if we're going to have a full recovery and rebuild and come out of this better than we were. So those would be mine.
Great. Leslie, we got any questions that you've got there that you want to put to the panelists?
Hi. Wow, what an excellent discussion. Thank you so much, everyone. I am just watching the Q&A as well as the chat. Any questions at all from the audience? You can type those into the Q&A or raise your hand and we will unmute your microphone if you'd like to ask your question verbally. All right, I've got one question here from Darren Plested, who is our former Hong Kong Alumni Ambassador. What can BCIT do to foster post-COVID growth for BC? So this is a question directed to BCIT. Paul, perhaps you'd like to take that one.
Well, I think what you've seen, Darren, and thank you for the question, I think you've seen today in this panel that we've got a very adaptable, smart group of people who've demonstrated that they can be nimble. And I think if one of the things that can come out of this is that we create a workforce that's nimble and able to adjust and to move to changing circumstances, I think we all benefit from it. And I think that needs to be built into the DNA of the very people that we produce from the institute.
Great. Thank you, Paul. And I've got a question now from Bobby Raj for Reza. Hi, Reza. Do you think there will be a movement of alcohol sales incorporated into your e-commerce model?
Thank you for that question. The answer is, so in Alberta, we have already incorporated alcohol sales into our distribution mix. So every provincial body has their own governing regulatory body when it comes to alcohol. So we worked with AGLC and we've developed a strategy on handling and management and distribution of alcohol. In British Columbia, it's a little bit different. So you got to work with the BCLDB. Laws are a little bit more nuanced, requiring liquor licenses. So we are exploring that avenue as obviously we want to make sure that we have the ability to provide the basket to the customers as much as possible to ensure that if they are planning on staying home, we provide that entire selection. As of right now, we don't have a targeted date, but it is part of the product roadmap for sure.
All right. And I've got a question for Anne here. It says, do you see only a price increase scenario for new housing or also a scenario or may not be able to afford current homes at current prices?
I think I missed the first part of it, but I know the price is, whether it's new home resale or new, is generally one doesn't go up when one goes down. They basically so it really comes down to your overall supply, of which the resale market is part of that. So we don't see, unfortunately, a price drop, given, like I said, the number of homes that have been released over the last 6 months. Now, we have about 16,000 homes that are ready to be released into the market. And, once we start, there is some sense of normalcy, perhaps, but we don't really see that probably until maybe the spring or early start of next year. So with so few homes that will be on the market and the demand is there, we don't see a price drop. We haven't seen a price drop to date.
Okay.
In the very, very high end, we do, but anything in that, I don't want to get into too much of the technicalities, but we say the top 20% of the market is very slow, but the rest of it is where the majority of us are. Obviously, that price has been stable.
Okay, thank you. And I think if we have time for one more question, I've got one from Loretta here. And if we don't get to your question in the live broadcast, we will follow up with you by email to answer your question. And Ali, if you could also just confirm I don't have any raised hands. So the last question from Loretta is for Reza. Hi, Reza. Based on the additional investments made to meet the spike in demand during the pandemic, what considerations have you had in terms of potentially having to scale down excess capacity and labor once demand levels start to normalize post-pandemic?
Yeah, for sure. So we are working with a lot of different partners. Again, I think I briefed on it a little bit earlier. We've kind of partnered with, a lot of restaurants, a lot of hospitality industries to make sure that we can ensure that Canadians have jobs as well. So we're trying to work with people, different restaurants, onboarding those individuals. So it provides us the flexibility to ensure that, one, they're not full-time employees, but it's in the interim, providing a cushion for them to be able to be in this transition phase. And as we see demand either still grow or demand to start smoothing off, that's when we might start making those decisions on whether to convert those employees and bring them on board. At the end of the day, it is grocery is a labor-intensive component as well as much of the automation there is. So we do ensure that we make very strategic decisions when we're onboarding people.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you to the audience for participating. And most importantly, thank you to Brad, to Anne, and to Reza. What inspiring commentary that we've had. I think it's interesting, the mix and the challenges you've faced. Thank you for sharing your experiences, for letting us just spend a little bit of time, and I know it's a busy time for all of you. I do appreciate the support, but most importantly, I think it's a tremendous reflection of the knowledge and skills of our grads around the world. I think it is people like you who are really driving this economy and driving the economy internationally. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all you've done. And most importantly, stay safe. And I do appreciate it on behalf of everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
There we go. Thank you so much. And thank you, Paul, for moderating the panel. And on behalf of the board as well, our sincere thanks to Anne, Reza, and Brad for sharing your experiences, your insights, and your perspectives with our alumni and guests. We truly appreciate it. I just have a few closing comments to end the evening. A huge thank you again to our generous event sponsors, ASTTBC and the BCIT School of Business and Media, and as well to our affinity partners, BMO, IA Financial, Prospera, and TD Insurance. If you have not yet entered our draw prize contest tonight, you will have a few more minutes to do so. Enter through that contest button in the BCIT Alumni Perks app. We will leave that contest open for another 5 minutes or so following the event. And afterwards, all attendees will receive an email with a link to our event survey as well as the list of our lucky draw prize winners for those $100 MasterCards and gift cards so generously donated by BIA Financial. So please watch for that email to see if you're a winner. My sincere thanks to the BCIT Alumni Relations team and BCIT Information Technology Services for so expertly managing tonight's event. And last but not least, a sincere thanks to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us for tonight's event. We truly appreciate it. Please keep in touch at bcit.ca/alumni. Thank you.